The Republicans in the Senate and the Democrats in the House have both proposed two separate stimulus packages. The Senate Republicans call theirs the HEALS Act, and the House Democrats call theirs the HEROES Act. We compare the two so you don't have to. The first question you might have is, how are these packages going to protect people and businesses? The HEALS Act would provide liability protection for businesses, workplaces, and institutions, while the HEROES Act put more of an emphasis on the individual safety, providing no business liability protections but setting new workplace health standards. You might also be wondering how much money would be going out and who would receive it with these two proposals. With the HEALS Act, there would be additional direct payments of $1,200 for individuals and $500 for dependents of all ages with a yearly income under $75,000 and no age limit. The HEROES Act involves a similar direct payment of up to $1,200 for individuals with a yearly income under $75,000. It also expands eligibility to include students under 24 and illegal immigrants. But what would these two proposals do about the tens of millions of Americans that are unemployed? The HEALS Act gives $200 additional weekly federal payment to unemployment insurance recipients for 2 months. It caps benefits at 70% of previous salary thereafter. On the other hand, the HERO Act extends additional $600 weekly federal payment through January 31st, 2021. What would they do about the millions of people struggling to pay their mortgages? The HEALS Act has no provisions on evictions or forbearance, although it would offer $3.2 billion for housing, which includes $2.2 billion for tenant-based rental assistance and $1 billion for a public housing operating fund. The HEROES Act, conversely, provides additional 12-month eviction and forbearance moratorium. On the local level, the HEALS Act does not give additional aid, but gives more flexibility for existing aid, while the HEROES Act would give an additional $375 billion. On the state level, the HEALS Act would give no money, while the HEROES Act would give $500 billion with varied funding formulas to account for the health and economic impact of COVID on different states and localities. Both acts have COVID testing and tracing in common, but the HEALS Act plans to spend $25 billion, while the HEROES Act plans to spend 3 times that, $75 billion. One thing that is unique to the HEROES Act is $1.5 billion in funding for low-income households for utilities and internet, and a moratorium on disconnecting or terminating utility services for non-payment. One of the biggest things on people's minds lately, with fall quickly approaching, especially if you're a parent or student, has been schools. So how will these two proposals tackle the upcoming school year? The HEALS Act would provide a total of $105 billion, $70 for elementary, middle, and high schools, $30 for universities and colleges, and $5 for governors to use at their discretion. On the other hand, the HEROES Act would provide $90 billion to states for local education and $10 billion for colleges, including $1.7 billion for HBCUs and $7 billion for childcare. For student loans, they both have very distinct plans. The HEALS Act provides a 10-year or income-based repayment option for payments made after October 1st, while the HEROES Act offers additional 12-month loan suspension and $10,000 cancellation of federal and private loans for economically distressed borrowers. Another area that may be on your mind is small businesses. They've been hit very hard by the pandemic, and the two acts have very different ideas about addressing their struggles. The HEALS Act would spend $190 billion to create another round of the Paycheck Protection Program, loan program, and an additional $25 billion for businesses with under 10 employees. It would also spend $100 billion to fund and provide long-term low-interest loans to seasonal businesses and businesses located in low-income communities. On the other side of things, the HEROES Act would be supporting small businesses by providing $10 billion for COVID-19 emergency grants through SBA's Economic Injuries Disaster Loan Program. It would also allow small businesses to use the funds through the end of 2020 and would loosen requirements and how funds can be used.